Are you ready to get fortified? Sorry for that lame joke at the beginning of the podcast, but I felt I couldn't resist. It's probably a catchphrase that won't catch on, but I felt I just couldn't resist. Anyway, welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, Fortified with Gord Fortin. I am, in fact, Gord Fortin. Before getting into the show, I just want to go over the format of my podcast and introduce myself. Now, before we start even with that, I want to just make sure everybody understands this podcast is independent and unaffiliated with any of the current news outlets that I currently work for or those that I've worked for in the past. I have been a journalist for 10 years. I am currently the court reporter at the Whitehorse Star. I'm also the former editor of the Edson Leader as well as the Hinton Parklander. I've also worked as a reporter at the Lakeside Leader in Slave Lake, the Temiskaming Speaker in Temiskaming Shores, and Le Voyageur, that's the French newspaper in Sudbury. My experience has taken me across Canada throughout my career. I have reported in communities across Ontario, Alberta, and Yukon. I also run a commentary channel on YouTube. This channel bears my name. I produce my videos in both English and French. If you want to check it out, all you need to do is search Gord Fortin in the YouTube search bar. Now, Fortified will be something of a political, news, and cultural talk show. I will be discussing topics related to such subjects, or really anything in general that interests me. My aim is to present the facts of every story, just like any journalist should. Now, after reading the facts, I plan to present an analysis, or essentially my analysis of the topic just presented. I will be formulating my opinions and my analysis based on the standards I have developed over my career. The opinions expressed will be my own, no one else's. I recognize that I'll be competing with mainstream media in a sense, but not in others. Based on the format of Fortified, there's no way I could compete to be first on the scene or first to break a story. That's impossible. However, I will strive to report the facts as best as I can and try to balance my opinions as much as I can. The goal of my show is to not really be partisan to any particular political party. I'm not a member of any party, nor do I want to join one. If I agree with a policy, a position, or a candidate, or party for that matter, I will express my agreement and explain why. That does not mean it's an endorsement of said party or candidate or person. I will proceed the same way when it comes to disagreements. It needs to be said that disagreements do not mean that I am against the individual or party expressing that opinion necessarily. If I think a party or candidate does not deserve support, I will say as such and explain why. I'm not so arrogant to try to claim that I won't be partisan at all. That would be ridiculous. My partisanship, I would say, would be towards the center of the political spectrum. I think there are good ideas on both the left and the right. I don't like limiting my point of view to just one side. I do not see the benefit of doing that. I think it's important to stick up for good ideas, no matter which side they originate. I find too many media outlets today, and people in general, do a poor job on this front. Too many choose sides and exclude some points of view, or all points of view, from the other side. I can't stand the closed-mindedness that I see in my profession today. Now, I still know a lot of journalists in my field, and there are still some that do a tremendous work. I want to commend those that, as far as I can tell, still report the news like any journalist should. Now, another thing that I find troubling is I find too many outlets do a bad job of differentiating between news reporting and opinion pieces. This is something I'm going to try to clearly avoid and do my best. My aim is to properly differentiate my segments into at least two parts: reporting the facts and then the analysis and opinion. I will aim to work hard to announce when the opinion section starts and the reporting ends. Now, I am human, but these are the standards I want to aim and strive for. This is part of the reason I wanted to start this podcast. I don't like the direction my profession is going. I think it's important to form alternative outlets. I have no desire to have this podcast or my YouTube channel in general, or any other of my projects, to be affiliated with any other outlets. So this is the introduction of both me and Fortified with Gord Fortin. So now on with the show. I hope you enjoy. Now before we go on, I just want to apologize. I am feeling pretty sick at the moment. I've been planning this podcast for a number of weeks. I don't want to delay it any longer, so it's just on with the show, and I hope it turns out great. I've just taken a lozenge to help with my voice and help me talk better, so if you hear a little clacking in my mouth, that's what it is. I apologize if it's very pronounced, but the show must go on. So now we're going to go straight into our first topic. Here in Canada, our Prime Minister finds himself in trouble heading into the next election. Justin Trudeau is finding himself in further hot water over the SNC Lavalin scandal. Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion released a report that states that Trudeau broke ethic laws and how he handled himself in the scandal. The scandal has been called the Lav Scam and is on Twitter. It is a Twitter hashtag. Dion released the report of his findings earlier last month in August. In it, he found that Trudeau tried to exercise influence over then Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould in an effort to convince her to avoid criminal proceeding against SNC Lavalin when she was the Attorney General. She is not anymore. Dion has stated that Trudeau broke Article 9 of the ethics laws. SNC Lavalin was formed in 1911, and it employs roughly 8,500 people or 8,500 people in Canada. The company is accused by the RCMP of defrauding Libyan companies of approximately $130 million. $130 million. SNC Lavalin is also accused of bribing public officials in Libya. Earlier this year, Wilson-Raybould was transferred to a new position in Trudeau's cabinet. In this cabinet shuffle, she was moved from Attorney General to the Ministry of Veteran Affairs. After this cabinet shuffle, both Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott resigned from their positions in the Liberal cabinet. They stated that they could no longer support the party on its SNC Lavalin position. Wilson-Raybould resigned as Veteran Affairs Minister on February 12th of this year. Philpott resigned from her position in the cabinet of President of the Treasury Board on March 4th. Amid these allegations that Trudeau is facing, Gerald Butts, the Prime Minister's principal secretary, resigned on February 18th. He denied all allegations that the Prime Minister's office tried to pressure Wilson-Raybould on the SNC Lavalin file. On March 18th, another high-profile resignation took place. Michael Wernick, the clerk of the Privy Council, retired. This was as he was being questioned about the role in the Lav scam. On April 2nd, Trudeau announced that both Philpott and Wilson-Raybould were going to be kicked out of the Liberal caucus. The reasoning was that if they had no longer had confidence in the Liberal Party, neither woman could remain in the caucus. Since Dion's report was released, the opposition in the House of Commons has been asking for some kind of probe or investigation into the matter. Thus far, the Liberals have been using its majority government to block these efforts. Now, with that, I feel you should have enough context to understand the analysis I'm going to give. But before we get into that, I'm going to do a little bit of shameful self-promotion. I have done some videos on YouTube explaining some of the different angles in this scandal. One of them is Trudeau suing Conservative leader Andrew Scheer over how the Conservatives handled the scandal. If you want to know more about that, I suggest you check them out on my YouTube channel. Again, all you need to do is search Gord Fortin on the YouTube search bar. You should find my channel. They'll be posted there. So now that you have the facts, I'm going to move to my analysis. Now, The findings of this report do not surprise me at all. Dion's findings, to me, do not surprise me. I always felt that Trudeau never hid that he wanted to mitigate whatever punishment SNC Lavalin was going to get, one way or another. I was under the impression that Wilson-Raybould was looking to impose maybe more severe consequences on the company than those proposed by either Trudeau or his office. I thought that was always clear. But to be honest, I always found that Trudeau and his office's actions were troubling in the long run at the end of the day. A company, whether it be big, small, or medium, whatever size, should suffer consequences if it breaks the law. It should also make no difference if the company is a major employer in Quebec or any other province or territory. No one is above the law. The law applies to everyone. A company that breaks the law, like SNC Lavalin is accused of, is not taking the well-being of its employees seriously, in my opinion. I don't understand why someone would want to work in those conditions. SNC Lavalin is accused of bribing public officials and of defrauding. There needs to be some kind of due process in this matter. When a company breaks the law or does not manage its affairs properly, it's not the job or the responsibility of the federal government to save it. I am not confident at all that Trudeau will face any kind of consequences for his unethical behavior or alleged unethical behavior, other than perhaps losing the election in October. And if the loss is bad enough, maybe losing leadership of the Liberal Party. Now, I want to be clear, crystal clear. When I say consequences, I mean something that's imposed in court. Pure and simple. Trudeau thus far has refused to apologize for his and his office's actions. He has stated that he understands how Dion reached his conclusions, but the Prime Minister still feels justified in his actions. He reiterates constantly that he was trying to save Quebec jobs. Trudeau is the MP of Papineau. That's a Quebec riding. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's in the Montreal area. I understand that as a Quebec MP, Trudeau would want to preserve Quebec jobs. Everyone should understand that to a point. The problem is, he has to be a Prime Minister for everyone, not just Quebec. The fact that he is a Prime Minister and his company, he is a Prime Minister and the company are both from Quebec, gives way to the suggestion that there is favoritism from this Prime Minister's office towards Quebec. That's unacceptable. There are a lot of votes available in Quebec. I'm not going to dispute that. But that province is not more important than any other province or territory in Canada. One region is not more important or more valued than the other, pure and simple. Each province or territory deserves just as much help and support from the federal government, regardless of where the current sitting Prime Minister lives. Period. I feel Trudeau should have lost public support over this. But to be honest, I doubt he has. I doubt that the people that identify with the party strongly or are lifelong big L liberals would vote against Trudeau or say that they've lost confidence in him. I feel too many people are ready to defend their team against findings or accusations of wrongdoing, but would never extend the same courtesy to the opposition when the circumstances are the exact same. It's extremely frustrating. Breaking the ethics laws is the same, regardless if you're a liberal, a conservative, or from any other ideology or political party. The same people that demanded then Prime Minister Stephen Harper resign in 2011 when his minority government fell when he was found to be in contempt of Parliament are defending Trudeau here. It's maddening. This is hypocrisy. It's obvious and it's shocking. I feel a lot of people lose their principles just because their team or their candidate is in power. as I keep saying, it's extremely frustrating. Instead of admitting that Trudeau's leadership and the last scam could cost them the election in October this year, the Liberals are instead just attacking everybody else, whether it be Conservative Party leader Andrew Scheer or People's Party leader Maxime Bernier. The Liberals are not even trying to reflect on their own actions. Even worse is that the federal Liberals are attacking Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who isn't even involved in federal politics. So, realistically, why not attack other Conservative premiers? Why not attack Jason Kenney in Alberta? Or François Legault in Quebec is more to the right than he is to the left. But wait, he's a Quebec premier. I don't think Trudeau would attack Quebec's premier even if they were ideologically opposed. It is maddening to see a party like the Liberals incapable of self-reflection. It seems like they just want to To me, it seems like they just want to present themselves or portray themselves as being completely innocent at all costs and hope that they can blame everything on somebody else. I don't know how the Liberals and Trudeau could be so blind to the reality that's right in front of them. Now, last point on this matter. The fact that the Liberals have used its majority government to block an investigation into the scandal will just aggravate the bad optics of the Lav scam. This is another shocking aspect. I do not understand how those in charge of the Liberal strategy don't see these bad optics. The Prime Minister is accused of breaking conflict of interest and ethics laws. That should be the subject of some kind of investigation. It's absolutely nuts to not have one. If Trudeau really broke such laws, the people of Canada need to know before the next federal election. Ignoring that reality that is right in front of their eyes should negatively impact the Liberals' re-election chances. The voters, the people of Canada, we need to know if Trudeau even deserves to not just be re-elected as Prime Minister, but if he should even be the leader of a national party. Now, this is further exacerbated with Gerald Butts returning to the Liberals to help with strategy. This shows that Trudeau and his team is tone deaf to what's going on. Trudeau's legitimacy as party leader is an important question we all need answered if any Canadian wants to cast an informed vote. But in the end, as I said, I'm not that convinced that this scandal will do much to sway people. In the end, we'll see what voters think, but I have big doubts that the last scam will convince anyone to vote for another option. I personally think these new developments will just reinforce someone's support or opposition of Trudeau and the Liberals, and nothing else. Alright, so I think it's time now we move to our second topic, which centers on the leaders' debate in the upcoming federal election. The People's Party of Canada and its leader Maxime Bernier have been excluded from both the English and French debates. The Leaders' Debate Commission informed Bernier of this decision by letter. In it, Commissioner David Johnston said that the People's Party does not meet all of the prerequisites to qualify for the debates. He informed both Bernier and his party that the decision is not final, however, so things can change. The Commission has invited Bernier and the People's Party to make submissions on qualifications. They can make submissions until September 9th. There are 3 prerequisites that every party needs to meet for their leader to qualify to the leaders' debates. The first is that the party in question needs to have at least 1 MP elected to the House of Commons. That individual must have been elected in the previous election under the party's banner. The next criterion to meet is that the party must present candidates in at least 90% of the country's federal ridings. The third is that the party must be represented in the next general election and be expected to elect MPs. The Commission estimates that the People's Party may only elect Bernier or no one at all. It claims to have based its opinion on polls and projection sources. Now, since the news hit, People's Party supporters on Twitter started the hashtag #LetMaxSpeak. So those are the facts on this one. So let's dive right in and unpack this decision. Oh boy. Now I am a little disappointed with this decision. I would be more disappointed, but I understand that decision can be reversed by the Commission sometime between now and September. Bernier could very much end up in both debates. So there is that little bit of hope that this decision could be overturned. But regardless, it seems strange. I feel like a different standard is being used for the People's Party than it is for evaluating other parties. I wonder if the Bloc Québécois and the Reform Party were treated the same way when they first formed and were heading into their first election. So I did some research. It's pretty easy. The Bloc won enough seats in its first election to become the official opposition. That said, it did not run candidates in 90% of ridings. It only runs candidates in Quebec. So why can it participate in the debates when the party has realistically no chance of winning? Why can its leader, Yves-François Blanchet, participate but not Bernier? Makes no sense. The Bloc's first leader, Lucien Bouchard, got to participate in the leaders' debates in its first election. The Bloc was first formed in 1991, and the first election it ran in was in 1993. To me, the circumstances of the formation of the Bloc is a little different than the People's Party, but they are pretty close. The People's Party is... Now, the big difference is the People's Party is a real federal party. Unlike Le Bloc, the People's Party has candidates in multiple provinces and territories. It aims to have candidates in all federal ridings. At the end of the day, the Bloc only runs in one province. It only competes in Quebec's 78 ridings when there are 338 federal ridings in total. The Reform Party, on the other hand, was formed in 1987. Neither the party or its leader, Preston Manning, got to participate in the debates in 1988. That said, the party was able to participate in every election it existed in since. The Reform Party eventually became the Canadian Alliance, which would go on to merge with the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada to become the present-day Conservative Party. So, looking at those two parties, you can clearly see there is a precedent to either include a new party that did not exist prior to the last general election, and there's also precedent to include a party that did not exist prior to the last general election. So just precedent either way. I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that. But now I want to move on and look at the Green Party and its leader, Elizabeth May. She was allowed to be in the debates when she had slim chances of winning or electing members. I personally think that's ridiculous to exclude the People's Party from the debates. I do not understand this decision thus far. It seems strange to me, especially when you consider how some of the other parties were treated. We all know that the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, and the Democratic Party will be invited. They are the big three major parties in Canada. They will be involved no matter what. We can automatically assume that. But if the Bloc and the Green Party can participate, so should the People's Party. I doubt that the Bloc nor the Greens will make any significant gains in the next federal election, nor will they get official party status. And to be fair, I think the People's Party is in the same boat. They might win some seats, but I doubt they're going to get enough to form get enough to be recognized as an official party in the House of Commons. But that said, I still feel the party should be invited to the table. Now, I know that the left wing of the political spectrum is going to try as hard as it can to paint the People's Party as full of racists and hateful, regardless if that claim applies. To be honest, I doubt that the party can be honestly described as such. I feel words like hateful, racist, and terms like that are thrown around so much in our culture today that these terms have either lost or are close to losing their meaning. Left-wing parties will try to make the People's Party to be the Canadian version of the Republican Party, and Bernier our version of President Donald Trump, regardless if the comparisons are valid. The strategy of calling your opponents racist is an import from the United States Democratic Party, as well as the American left. I feel this is an import that we should make sure stays south of the border. It's a strategy that lost Hillary Clinton the 2016 election. So I don't know why the left would want to run that way, but what do I know? I feel Bernier and the People's Party should be invited to both debates. If his opinions and policies are truly that bad and that offensive, the other leaders will expose it. That's their job. Justin Trudeau, Andrew Scheer, Jagmeet Singh, Elizabeth May, and Yves-François Blanchet should all be capable of dismantling Bernier's proposals, if they are in fact that bad. The other leaders they should be craving to debate Bernier and his party. The voters deserve to hear the People's Party's message so they can make up their own mind on the party themselves. Not have the existing parties tell you what to think. It's as simple as that. Now, another frustrating aspect of this decision is the reaction from the New Democrats. They support the exclusion because, as I predicted, the party claims that the People's Party has a hateful message. I'm hugely disappointed with this position by the NDP as someone that vehemently supported Jack Layton. Letting the People's Party participate in the debate would give the New Democrat leader, Jagmeet Singh, a chance to prove that his point of view is better, and it would be face-to-face with Bernier. The New Democrats would have the chance to present themselves as an alternative to the people that are currently thinking of supporting the People's Party in October. It's maddening to see a major Canadian political party support political censorship. I warn the New Democrats that censorship is always something that will end up being used against you eventually. Eventually, you'll say something that offends somebody else, and that individual will demand that you be censored. It's a policy where you just can't win. Now, because of this, I feel like there are no viable options worth voting for in October in the next election. I've yet to find someone currently that deserves my vote. It's sad. It's sad, really. Well, that was the first episode of Fortified with Gord Fortin. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I plan to have a video version of it uploaded to YouTube and BitChute under the channel name Fortified with Gord Fortin on either platform. I plan to also release an audio version of the podcast. I'm still working out the details of releasing the audio version. The plan is to find a host for it and then distribute it through avenues like Google Podcasts, iTunes, and the like. Keep posted on my social media on Facebook, Gord F. Fortin, Twitter, Gord F. Fortin, and mine's also Gord F. Fortin. For updates, again, I want to thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Take care. Until next time.